Yes, we go. Clémence.
Bonsoir. Bonsoir à tous. Bonsoir à tous. Je fais l'introduction en français. Gonna speak in French just for the introduction, and then you go in English. Donc voilà, bienvenue pour cette troisième séance de notre cycle de conférences à l'école d'architecture Paris-Malaquais consacrée à l'Europe et qui s'intitule Construire les Europes. On est très heureux d'accueillir Špela Videčnik. J'espère que je prononce pas trop mal son nom. Je laisse sans tarder la parole à Federico Ferrari, qui est le co-commissaire de ce cycle avec Pascal Richter et qui va introduire notre conférencière pendant que les étudiants continuent d'arriver. Voilà. Et puis ensuite, Océane, Océane sera la répondante de cette conférence, Océane Ragoussi, qu'on remercie. Voilà. Bonne conférence à tous.
Merci. Merci Jean-Baptiste. Donc bonsoir à toutes et à tous. Et je vais continuer en anglais. Welcome to the third conference in the series Construire les Europes. I'm also speaking on behalf of Pascal Richter, co-curator of the series, who unfortunately cannot be here today. As with other conferences, we have a guest moderator, Océane Ragoussi, as Jean-Baptiste say, whom I thank for her availability. A special welcome to Špela Videčnik, who will give a lecture this evening entitled Inspiring Limitations. I will limit myself to a very brief introduction and then give her the floor. I think the work of OFIS Architekti is interesting first and foremost because it shows us the work of a truly local architecture firm. And if you will allow me to use this somewhat banal term, it seems to me that Slovenia has been a country capable in recent years of bringing together a strong local tradition and international influences. And obviously, I'm referring to a border between East and West Europe, but also to a landscape that is also urban, agricultural, and alpine. This aspect seems to confirm, as two previous lectures by Mariana Renzu and Paola Vigano have also demonstrated, that Europe is a place of hybridization and cross-fertilization of tradition, I think, and often an intertwining of the present, past, and future. I hope we will have the opportunity to discuss this and much more at the end. But now I don't want to take up any more of Špela Videčnik's time. Thank you again for being here with us. Over to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Does it work? Okay. Yes. So thank you for coming on this December evening. And thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure for me to be here. As it was explained, I will talk and try to connect our work of the Praxis to Europe and identity in Europe. And actually, this is how we think, this is how we work. So it's not hard. So Europe we take as a kind of laboratory. When we speak about Europe, today, we normally think of institution, but Europe is, of course, much more. It's the way people live and the way we build, also adapt, and also how we inhabit space. And also it's about not just big kind of areas like Paris or France, but it's also about small countries, Eastern countries like Slovenia. And today I will try to explain how we work more or less in the periphery. So yes, we are somehow in the periphery because our country is very small. We are 2 million people only altogether. If you look at the little dot on the wall, this is Slovenia and that's China. So you can understand the comparison is really very different. But still, there is only 1 hour from the main city, which is located here, to Italy, Trieste, or up to Austria. Only 1 hour to the coast or to the Alps. So our country already through history had a lot of influences from Austro-Hungarian and also from Italian architecture. So this is embedded in our culture, in food, in the way we are. And somehow we are also, of course, connected to the Balkans. So really we are in the middle of very different cultures. As I explained, also we have very diverse countryside and very diverse architecture because, of course, in the Alps, architecture is completely different than, for example, on the coast and close to Italy, where it, in a way, reminds to Italian small cities. Another thing that makes us maybe different or special is that our country is young. We got independent in year 2000. So basically, it's young country, it's fresh, and this is also the way the practices are in Slovenia. Our practice has about 12 people. We were never much more, but we built very large-scale architecture. I selected today only few buildings, but we built things like stadiums, hotels, multiple housing, schools. We built very different typologies and very different scales from large to small. I will explain today. And this is actually what I would say is possible in Europe. We spend a lot of time in the US. I will explain later. I was teaching there a long time. And in US, of course, as a practice of this scale, you would never be allowed to build large-scale projects like here. But somehow in Europe and also in the periphery, we have this capability that we can work as a kind of boutique office, which allows us that every project we can really embed really close inside. We can study, we can do it different, we can experiment more. And this is what I would say is different between Europe and the other global world. So basically, the way we work is we try to take architecture as a kind of translation because we don't want to be like that. Basically, today, with globalization, everywhere you go, you find the same building, either it's in very hot climate or cold climate, Nigeria, Germany, China, Switzerland. Basically, you can have this kind of global architecture, and you can find Eiffel Tower, for example, in China as well. And that's why we are thinking for years already how to be different, like what to do that actually you try to work differently, but still not copying something that actually is just locally. So as I said, Slovenia has this traditional architecture, very different depending on the climate, on the site where it's located. And this is, in a way, something that inspires us a lot. So we study these vernacular buildings. We study why they are like this, how they behave with the climate, how the materials behave, how details were made, how the structure is done. We study also these traditional buildings. This is hay rack. It's a kind of traditional storage for hay, so to dry grass. And it has this beautiful architecture and also beautiful structural systems that we study, and also we try to work with that, especially in the alpine area. And of course, also our role of architects is that we teach people that, in a way, buildings, our heritage, we should respect, we should conserve, we should reinterpret, we should bring new life, and also this we take in a way as our goal. So this is a quote that Kim Kardashian takes: "Be yourself before you forget who you really think you are." And also this is, for example, a quote that Oscar Wilde already said a long time ago. So be yourself, everyone else is already taken. And in a way, this is how we try to react and act. And this is also how we try to be. Coming from Slovenia, of course, I have to mention architect Jože Plečnik. I'm not sure if any of you was already in Ljubljana. So he was a great master. He's a great teacher still to us today. Videčnik was an architect. So maybe just to mention, before we got euro, he was also on our banknote, so up there. So Videčnik and the Finnish note and the Slovenian note had an architect, which also is something special. And so he was an architect that in the time of modernism took his really own path. So in the time where, in a way, architects also were thinking and acting globally, he was taking some inspiration for that, but mainly looking for his own way and taking inspiration either from antique architecture or from secessi, Viennese secessi, or from local craftsmanship. So basically, his work is for us influential because he was very different at that time. So this is, for example, his church in Prague, really having a dialogue with this Viennese secessi. Or this is another church from Slovenia, from Ljubljana periphery. You can see that here actually he made dialogue with local craftsmanship, taking inspiration from these kind of wooden details and elements, and also taking in advantage that the budget was low. So, for example, the column that you see on the picture above is in a way a canalization pipe, so a sewage pipe. So basically, he was able to take materials, low-cost materials, sustainable materials in some way, and try to kind of create space out of that, taking inspiration also locally. This is, for example, the facade of the National Gallery in Ljubljana, where the stone that is in the facade and also the stone that is in the floor, he took from the site that where the building was built and created this really beautiful facade. This is the interior, of course, a lot of columns and this kind of classical approach. And he was working in large scale, in very small scale, so his buildings were basically done to very less detail. You can see the beautiful details of the fence, or on the other side, you can see the hook of the door. So basically, he detailed everything really carefully. And on the other hand, made this big infrastructural kind of regulation of Ljubljana city. So along the river, he made these beautiful interventions. Like, for example, this is a 3 bridge. There was an old small bridge, and he didn't, for example, when they tried to make it larger, he didn't decide to destroy it, but he made these small 2 bridges next to it to create a square, a public space in front of the church. So his work really is inspirational to us, and we would say that Videčnik is an example of a European architect in some way. So now, going to our work, I will start with small scale and heritage projects. This is a small barn that, as I explained before, for us the role is also to teach the local people to respect the tradition and respect the beautiful buildings that are there, even if they are not used anymore. And this was, in a way, example of conservation, where, in a way, we try to return to the origin. So it has very low footprint. It's very sustainable project. And in a way, we try to implement local craftsmanship, low footprint, sustainability, and also create importance of conservation. So these are basically themes that we are researching in projects like that. So as you see, it's an old barn that in a way was not used anymore, and a new home has to be created inside. So instead of demolishing it, we tried to show that you can inhabit it with a new program. So as you might know, the wood, if it's ventilated through centuries, so this barn is about 120 years old. It's really in a very good condition, no insects, no kind of bad elements, because the ventilation goes through the building. So this kind of wood is really very, very sustainable to keep. We have earthquakes in Slovenia, quite hard ones, but buildings like these, they stay. And in a way, we worked with a structural engineer. The only thing we had to do is few joints that were a little bit stronger and are hidden inside, few metal joints. That was it. Otherwise, the building was completely healthy and good enough to keep. So the building got a new kind of shell inside, isolation, and a new wooden floor. This furniture and also the walls are made from the same wood. It's spruce. It's a cheap local wood, really brought from locally. So this is actually how it looks like. And working on it, we studied this kind of local designs also about how traditionally the furniture was made. So after this project is now, I think, already about 8 years old or something like that, we got a lot of calls from local people, in a way, seeing that old barns that they have can inhabit them differently. Of course, not everyone can afford or have the culture to afford an architect, but still, it's a good example that many people actually didn't decide to demolish buildings like that, but really tried to bring new life into existing structure, which in a way keeps the tradition in the village and also is a sustainable way of building. So you can see that the light is brought just from where actually there was no wall before. Otherwise, the old wooden planks are only perforated to bring daylight, and otherwise the interior is just completely simple shell of the same material everywhere. Okay. In the same area, the alpine area, I will stay first of the lecture in this alpine area. We also, for example, try to then implement this knowledge of working with these hierarchies, these structures in kind of new buildings or the revitalization. This is Hotel Bohin, which was opened about, I think, 3 years ago, and it's a revitalization of the old building. Old hotel really was not something to be proud of. It was built in the last decades. First just the front building, then they made the back, and then they added one building more. And the client of this hotel, and actually a young guy, bought 5 hotels. We have in Slovenia a lot of young guys who are crypto guys. I mean, they are quite good in technical point. So in a way, this boy, he was, I think, 24 when he bought 5 hotels in Bohin, and he came to us with his partner who was the same age, and they asked us actually to design another hotel for them, which we are building just right now. And this hotel, they said, oh, we will just maybe refresh the rooms a little bit, and then through talks, through weeks of working on another hotel together, we somehow try to find a solution that in a way we can maybe also do something better out of the of this one. So basically the story is that the old hotel was not earthquake proof. So we had to make it earthquake proof, which normally you would do from inside. Normally from the inside you would do reinforcement either with concrete or with metal. But we talked to structural engineer and we find a solution that actually, because as I said, the rooms inside were healthy, the hotel was operating, we in a way created this kind of cage outside of the hotel, which you can see here. So it's a wooden cage that embraces the old structure and makes it earthquake safe. But also in that way, because we opened because we made it kind of structurally stronger with this new envelope, we were able to open the balconies. Before the windows were small, now we could open them down, and this kind of three-dimensional frame that you can see here on the diagrams created also the balconies in front of the rooms. Inside the frames, we also hide things like water sewage, the rain sewage, and some kind of electrical wires and so on and so on. So basically, it's this kind of 3D structure that in a way creates many functions. So of course it's wood. So in a way, the front facade, we added a kind of extension of the dining room here. So in that way, we were able to connect those volumes that before didn't have any dialogue between them. Now, in a way, they have these shapes that kind of create dialogue between the volumes and also between the mountains that are behind. So here you can see this metal frame, and here you can see that in a way this cage creates the balconies. So these were the reception areas, the interior spaces before. We opened them up a little bit, and inside, this is also what I would say it's possible in Europe, and it's possible in small countries like Slovenia, that in comparison to, for example, US, where actually you can really take local craftsmanship for kind of affordable budget, and they can make things, design things you don't need to buy, but you can actually design things and bring things locally. Like, for example, this ceiling is made out of wooden shingles that normally are used to cover roofs in the alpine areas. And also the boards behind, for example, here you can see the ventilations. So the air exhaust and the air ventilation and the heating and everything is done in a way that it's hidden behind these wooden perforated elements. The chairs that are in the lobby, for example, are also designed by us and made out of felt that is made from recycled bottles, the recycled plastic bottles, and so on. So in a way, that's also what you can do. And these are just images of the interior, where you can see that in a way we tried to take inspiration from local craftsmanships. For example, the chairs, they are in reinterpretation of old chairs. The lights also are designed and the reinterpretation of the tree branches and so on. A small room. The corridors were long and without light. And in a way, we kept them long, of course, because we kept the rooms as they were structurally. But we covered corridors in wood. And in this photo of the hierarchs I was showing before, in a way to teach the tourists who live in the hotel or the local people of the importance to keep the structures of the hierarch. So in a way, when we walk through this corridor, you walk through a structure of the hierarch. And some views from inside and outside. And I also have a small...
This ding 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 ding. How on? Ding 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 ding. Mod. Ding 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 ding. See. That's Jason.
Okay.
Ow.
Okay. So another project that was built just last year, and in a way, we decided to show it today also, because in a way it's a very modest project, talking in a way as our, let's say, architectural. So basically, it was an old hut from the royal family before the Second World War. The king, actually, of Yugoslavia was using this little hut to hunt in the areas, and then later in the years it was demolished. So when we came to the site, only these stones were there, no wood, nothing, and actually also we had no plans, nothing how the house looked like before. But for the place where this house was located, it was a big memory. Actually, everyone from this village at some time was working for the king, like every grandfather, grandmother was kind of connected with this house. So it was somehow embedded with the local people. And when they asked us to do again a small hotel on top of this stone that was on the site, we had this double thinking what to do, how to approach. Because, of course, as an architect that kind of works in a very, let's say, contemporary way, you would try to do a completely different building, forget about the past, and, of course, not copy something that used to be there and you don't even know how it was because there was no plans, nothing was left except like 5 old photos. So we were thinking that in a way, the correct way anyway would be to keep the memory. So decision was we keep the shape of the building, the size, the proportion, and we also keep a kind of image, a symbolic image in a way that when you go by the road, so basically when you drive by the road, maybe in first glance you think that actually it's an old building here. It has this black wood, this is burned wood, and it has this stone, old stone, this is original stone that was kept on the site, kind of base. But then when you look at the details, you see that actually it is a kind of new building, it is a contemporary building. So it's a kind of dialogue how to basically make a building, not to copy the old structure, but in a way embed inside the building the kind of symbolic way the building looked like before. So, and then interior, it's again a kind of lodge, hunting lodge kind of memory. Some elements, for example, like this, we were studying from the old photos. So these are elements that were on the shelters of the windows, but yet we made them larger. Or, for example, these elements that were kind of used for ventilation on one small window, we also used a little bit in interior as a kind of memory of the thing. What also is in these kind of smaller towns and smaller areas important is the community. And we work with community, and this is a small project that we are in a way proud of. They found 3 years ago when they were renovating their own road, they found this hole, and the hole actually was 27 meters deep with an old stone around, and no one remembered that actually this is an old fountain that was there. And when they asked archaeologists to look at it, they realized that it's 500 years old, and no one from the villagers remembered that actually this thing was there. And then they asked us, why don't you do something like a memory of this old fountain? And then again, question is, what do you do there? Because the fountain, no one remembered how it looked like. So what kind of fountain you put as a kind of memory to this place? What maybe was also important is that every day during summer and spring and fall, cows pass by this fountain when they go to eat grass on the fields around the village. And this is a tradition that is a little bit already dying. Basically, only few old people still bring cows every day, and in a way we also tried to put the memory. So what we did is that we on the pavement of this square, little square, we put the footsteps. So basically, this is the cow. We went there. We took the footstep, like in Hollywood, they have the hands of the famous actors. And here in this village, we have footsteps of the famous cows. So basically, the footsteps of real cows are now embedded in this square as a memory of the cows, where maybe at some point they will not pass by anymore. So what is actually really nice is that now when cows pass by, they actually drink water. Every time they pass by, they drink water. So this is actually really something very, very beautiful. Inside the hall, you see this old stone, 500 years old stone. It goes really deep, about 27 meters. There is a small light. We did it together with a friend artist. And this light is kind of slowly going up and down as a kind of drop of water and making light on this old snow. So what is really beautiful is that the villagers received the award. This was, I think, this October. Yes, in October, we went to Italy, and we got the villagers received the award as the best client, as the best client. So actually, they got the award in this beautiful Palladio building. So it's very nice something. So these kind of small projects, small interventions for basically low budget, in a way, make community stronger, important, and also in a way aware of something like this. So we are in a way proud and happy that they allowed us to do this kind of memory of the fountain, which of course doesn't look like a fountain, probably was here before, but it looks like a kind of abstract interpretation of an old well. And I mean, yes, and the best thing is that actually this thing now is like a champagne glass for the cows who actually drink water every time they go to eat grass. So yeah, and here you can see the thing going really, really deep down. Okay. So now we'll go to the urban context. Of course, we can work just in the village. So since we are in Paris, I would just like to show the project which we built. Now it's already, I think, 12 years ago. It goes really fast in the time. It was a competition that we won here, really by a complete surprise. We actually were asked one day to submit the portfolio. With just one email arrived somehow from France. And let's put it together. Let's translate it in French. We were lucky because we had a French student on a practice. So we made this French portfolio. We submit, we got invited, and we won the competition. And we built this project. So basically, we were so surprised that we didn't even know anyone in Paris. So we didn't know who to ask to be our local office. So, and, it was so sudden. Basically, the building is located in close to Parc La Villette, and just at that moment, they were finishing the tram around the area. So they were building really fast, and it was super important. The building had to be built 2 years after the competition, because they were building a tram and the garage of the tram behind the building, and they had to do the work all together. It was not possible to postpone, which was good, because at the end we realized that actually French construction site can get really, really late. So in a way, our construction site had to go really, really fast. And so what we did is that we got license. As if you are in European community as an architect, you can actually apply to any kind of institution in other country, and you can get the license if you submit your portfolio, your list of works, your proof of what you did, what and so on. So basically, I got license in France, and in a way, we took one young architect and we just did the construction permit alone from Slovenia. We were partly here. We were lucky to have a very good local team of structural engineer, Bruno Persson, and he helped us really a lot with his team. So basically, we built this project actually from Slovenia. So the building has a lot of, I would say, themes that I was maybe showing in smaller scale in the alpine area. So what is specific is that we really tried to study the site. The site here was very complex. It was a very, very narrow site. And we had to put about 180 the same apartments for students on top of it. So we made these boxes. All the apartments had to be the same. We made these boxes with balconies looking towards the area where it's a little bit more peaceful, because behind there is a football field on top of the remise, on top of the garage of the tram. And then we took inspiration for the textures, for the colors. Again, locally, there are a lot of beautiful old brick buildings around, and this was in a way inspiration for our facade that actually is done by kind of wooden max plates. It was also important that the building was quite, let's say, green. It had to get this green certificate that at that time, it's a long time ago now, was important task. So all the corridors are ventilated naturally. They also have natural light, so you don't need electricity when you enter through the corridors. All rooms have windows on both sides. So basically on back side, they have a small window in the bathroom, in front side. So you get this kind of good natural ventilation. We have photovoltaics on top. We have very good isolation. So basically building got this green certificate at the end. So what I would say is that in every project, like also in this one, we really, when we start, we study the site really intensely because we try to take every project we do, we try to do it different. We try to use different materials, different structure. We try to look for the projects that have very different programs. That in a way makes us interested in architecture after all this time when we work in the office. But also it's always a new learning, a new studying. It's like you come to the school and you have a new semester and you have a new project that is completely different from something you did before, and that's something that drives us, gives us kind of adrenaline and makes us kind of interested in a project. So I would say that this is something that brings then identity to the projects, and this is something that also brings identity. If you connect the way you work, the way you construct the building with the site, with the context, with the climate, with materials, with colors from around, then of course your project is only for that site, and it's specific, and it's not kind of globalized like I was trying to explain before, is what we tried to escape from. So what also is important, is this project is that in this very small, narrow site, we tried to create some kind of public space for students to basically meet, to share. For example, the gardens, they are very small because the site, as I showed, is narrow, but still there are gardens, there is a little library, there are like little community rooms, and that is also important. So the corridors, all the stairs are opened, so there is no heating, there is no loss. These corridors basically overlook the football field, so students, if they want, they can sit outside, enjoy the beer and watching the football below them. So that's all creates a kind of this community life that we believe it's important also for us to architect, to teach. So also, for example, in other projects, like for example, I mentioned before the stadiums, we try to look for community, to create community. Stadiums specifically are projects that are normally very enclosed. They have these large fences. They are pushed to the periphery more and more. And they are basically just for the elite, for the football players and for the match, and otherwise they don't live with the city, and this is something we don't like. So we built 3 stadiums so far, and for example, this one in Belarus is the most dislocated from the main city. So for us here, it was important to discuss with the client not to do big fences around, how to solve the security of the stadium. Of course, you have to secure the game, the match, for people who buy the ticket, who don't buy the ticket, for the hooligans, for the people who are angry about the other team, and so on and so on. But still, you try to solve that with different elements as an architect, not to create this big kind of fence that reminds then the building of a kind of prison or something. So this building is located in a old military area. It's a beautiful small forest just in the periphery of of a town called Borisov. It's the second large city in Belarus. The way we got the project, it was a funny story, because one day email arrived and they asked us that they would like to buy a project from us that we already built somewhere else. And we said, oh, but why we want to have the same stadium as the others have? I mean, maybe you deserve a new stadium. Like, why would you like to have the same stadium? So basically, these people came, like really the representative of the city and of the team came then to us, to Slovenia. We visited the stadium. We did together with them. We talked about what they like, what we don't like. And then we said, we proposed to them, okay, let's do a completely new project for you. So it is arena-shaped building. So stadiums who have arena shape and they are in a way enclosed, they have a very nice acoustic inside, and also in a way they create a match that is a little bit more introverted. As you see, the envelope is made of metal shingles. So the envelope is enclosed. That's what I was talking before, that we try not to do fences, but we try to enclose the spaces that are for the match, that are for the football players and so on. So in a way they are secured from the others, but still there is not these kind of big fences around. And then what is nice then is that in every day, not only when the match is, local people can inhabit that space around and have it as a kind of their own public space. What was a hard task for us here in Belarus is a very different country from everything else in Europe. Basically, you cannot import working force and you cannot import material from elsewhere. Everything needs to be done locally. They really support the local workers and the local materials. And no one was able to do the envelope like that, which was in a way quite complex. It's made of shingles. It's made of these metal elements that need to be waterproof. Basically, this was a big struggle. So during the construction, they almost changed their mind. And one day we got a call. They want to do a kind of black hydroisolation around the building, which of course would be a disaster. So luckily there were a few politicians like high in the structure of the country who completely liked our render, the first render we did. And they said, no, we don't do it. Let's try to find a solution to do it out of metal, like it was initial idea of this kind of shiny aluminum. So basically what we did is we knew a company from Germany, a small company, a boutique company that was renovating Baroque churches. So they knew how to bend and how to do the shingles properly, like you can see here. They were very enthusiastic also to do this project together with us. And what happened is that then they hired these guys to be the consultants on the site. So for a year, during the stadium was built, the 2 German technicians who were there on the site all the time, teaching the local teams how to actually do the stadium. So this is how the project finally happened. So you can see inside what I'm trying to say, the arena that encloses the area of the match creates this kind of acoustic and the feeling that maybe also sometimes when there are not too many spectators who come, you can feel like the building is kind of loud, that it's alive, that it's intense, creates this kind of intense feeling inside, and the outside, in a way, protects from the wood. Also, we tried to keep the wood as much as possible. We almost didn't cut any new tree. All the trees that were there before, cut before because of the military. So also the parking and everything we did organic inside this forest. Okay. This is another community project it's a very small town in Slovenia, but important because in this town, Herman Nordnung is a guy who was researching the space, and he was researching how to inhabit the space about 150 years ago already. So he drew these designs and books, the theoretical books that later Americans and Russians studied when they were doing kind of ships that went to the space. So basically he made this kind of inhabitable wheel that you can see there that is rotating. His work was also inspiration for this Kubrick movie. I don't know if you see Odyssey 2000. So basically this important guy was working in this small town in Slovenia, and the people from the town decided at some point to demolish the old community center and build a new community center, which would be also his museum. So we did together with another team of architects from Slovenia. Basically, it was a shared project. We decided to do it together. It was first to be meant as a competition, but it was in a way so exciting. We say, okay, let's just do it all together. Let's not compete. So we decided to do this kind of concrete wheel that, of course, reminds on the space wheel landing on the grass here in the middle of this town. And inside, actually, there is a community hall. So this is a small library and small rooms for the community. And in the area around, in this area, there is a museum devoted to space and to Herman Nordnung. So I'm just showing this project again as a kind of community project, because I believe that what in a way makes Europe special in comparison to countries in Asia or in the States and so on is that we have still this kind of social community living, and it's important for us as an architect to actually keep it and to do. This is a project we finished last year. It's a refurbishment again of an old industrial building. Again, important task because it's the only industrial building in Slovenia that was under the heritage. It was done by a great architect called Savin Sever in the 60s. He made this modular system of beams that span through the print shop without columns. And they have this beautiful skylight on top that you can open up a little bit and bring ventilation inside without rainwater to enter. So this building for a long time was completely deserted. Basically, every developer who got fingers on this site, because the site now is, of course, in the middle of the city, before it was in the periphery, wanted to demolish the building and do here kind of high-rise housing. So basically, this building then got protection of the heritage, and then they asked us to renovate, which was a hard task because, as you can see, all is visible concrete, everything enters, so it's a lot of thermal bridges, and inside the building, of course, now it's a heated space. So it was a very hard task how to preserve the visible concrete outside and still isolate the building inside. So today there are offices inside and a fitness club. So some elements that we found on the site, we tried to keep as many as possible and integrate them into this new space. So you can see the skylight really brings a very nice light inside. So now this brings us to the micro scale and to a different type of area in our region. It's Croatia. This is a project in Croatia, and here we were really trying to research how to actually do something in a very small scale in this kind of old towns where people don't know how to inhabit these places anymore because you cannot approach it by car. It's difficult to renovate. So this is a house that actually is in the floor plan only 3 by 3 meters, and it has 5 floors. and no one wanted to buy this house. So actually my partner bought it as an example how actually you can inhabit also these old towns. We have a lot of buildings like that in Croatia. In Slovenia, not so many, because we don't have so many of these old cities, but also in Italy, they have similar problem in this kind of old villages, how to inhabit these kind of spaces on the narrow streets. So here you can see how the construction site had to be organized. So everything needed to be really low tech because you cannot approach by car. Basically, the whole construction was a carpenter work that made his carpentry outside the building on the square. So this was the photo of the old house. And what is intervention is that inside the old walls, the inside of the old walls were completely taken out, and a new structure, a wooden structure, was placed inside these old walls. That in a way, it's not like a building, but it's like a big furniture. So basically, there are 3 bedrooms and the kitchen. And basically everything works as a kind of stackable furniture. So just a carpentry work because of the how, it's like I explained, how to build inside this area where you cannot actually approach by car. So in a way, everything is like a big bunk bed, 3 by 3 meters, but everything is really stuck nicely in this kind of function. For us, it's important to show. So basically, now there are 3 more buildings in this island that we are working on, because it's important to inhabit this kind of empty structure that are basically deserted. It brings life back to the buildings and life to the city, of course. Okay. So working on small scale, it's in a way, in the office, we also do research projects. This was a project we did when there was a big migration problem. At some point, the migration from Africa was coming through the Balkan route, it was called, and a lot of migrants came through Slovenia, and no one wanted to stay in Slovenia because no one knew what is Slovenia. Everyone wanted to go to France or Germany at that time. So basically, they stayed in Slovenia for a few days, and then they moved further, and they asked us in the city to do a little buildings for them where they would actually families or individual people could live. So we made these kind of research projects. And when we finished it, the first prototype, the migration crisis was politically solved. They all stayed in Turkey for some time at that time. So basically, there was no need anymore for our buildings. So then this prototype that we did, we kind of took it around as a kind of example of sustainable wooden building. It was exhibited in Milano, and then it was sometime in the castle of Ljubljana as a library. And later, which in a way it was important mission, was in London, exhibited in a kind of dialogue. It was a kind of big conference about the cost of the apartments in London that are extremely high, and what to do with the housing crisis. And one idea, or maybe in a way provocation, was how small a home can be that it can be affordable. So it was a kind of like example of micro living, very minimalistic micro living, very fastly. So you can see here that you can actually bring it, put it on top of the roof or on top of the courtyard, and inhabit it basically quickly. It's basically half a day, and you can basically assemble this building. And then we sold this building on eBay, and we donated the money to the Architectural Foundation in London. And the building today is somewhere in Scotland. We got the photos from the guy who bought it. The research we also tried to do talking about materials, so this was another research project. It's a glass house in the desert in Spain. We got a call one day from a company called Guardian, who is from Luxembourg, and they are glass producers, and they asked us, do you think you can design a building out of our glass that we can prove together that you can survive in a glass house in the middle of the desert without air conditioning? It gets about 50 degrees here in summer, and in winter it's extremely cold. It gets like minus, it gets snow basically. And we said, well, yeah, it's a great challenge. Let's try to do it. And we called structuralist engineer from London, AKT, and a sustainable engineer from Germany, Transolar, and we did this project together. Again, it's a micro house. You can see a very small footprint, a bedroom, a living room, and a small kitchen, the terrace around, and basically the whole structure is made of glass. And the building is in the middle of the desert, so there's no infrastructure, no electricity, no water, no sewage. So what we had to do is put photovoltaic on top, hide the battery below the building, hide the sewage cleaning device below the building, and the foundation, as you can see, are lifted from the ground. It's because of the animals, snakes, etc., but also because this is a national park, so we couldn't dig. So basically the foundation were just kind of concrete cubes brought to the site and placed there. And then when they disassemble the building, they can actually just take everything and the site stays the same as it was. So this was also a challenge. So what we did, the building has no columns. It has only glass. The glass is supporting the roof. There is a double deck on the bottom and double deck on the top. You can see, and the glass you can see here, I will show you the detail, basically enters this double deck, which makes it completely, basically completely windproof. The building, of course, in strong winds moves like in earthquakes, but here with this kind of small detail, we managed to solve, the structural engineer managed to solve that actually it's completely stiff, the building. And the glass, of course, it's a strong glass, so you don't need the columns, like vertical loads can actually carry the roof. You can see here. So the glass is a triple glass, and there is a special coating on top of the glass. That was the technology that they were trying to prove how good it is. You don't see it. It's not like mirrored glass or brown glass or anything like that, but actually it's like with ice, you see completely transparent glass, but these three different layers, they make that the sun ray doesn't enter the glass, so it never gets overheated. So you can see here that actually the building was completely done by a carpenter in Slovenia, and then it was brought on the truck to this desert in Spain and assembled there. I think it took them 2 days to assemble the building without really touching the ground, without demolishing anything on the ground. You can see that there are these plates that are brought there. They have holes, so when you put one plate next to another, you come with your hand inside this hole and you screw the glass, so the glass basically is then completely stuck inside the wood and doesn't move, and that makes it structurally strong. So this building now, I think it's about 5 years old. It was, or 6, I not remember, sorry. When it was built, it stayed there about 3 years, and they were renting it through Airbnb because they were trying to research if it's true that people don't use air conditioning and how actually it thermally behaves. And yes, when it was plus 50 outside, it was plus 28 inside, which is actually a great achievement. But yes, of course, we also had air conditioning because at the end of the day, it was Airbnb project. Then later they sold it to another private person, the Guardian, and it was then dislocated in another desert. So still now, I think you can go there and you can stay there in the desert. It's actually beautiful view, 360 degrees all around. And if you can see that everything is made of glass. So we really took glass as our hero. The furniture, the shelves, the kind of cladding around, basically everything is glass except that the curtains. Curtains are not there because of the sun, because the deck covers, so the sun doesn't really enter, and the glass, as I explained before, is really this high-tech glass that doesn't allow the sun to enter inside. But it's more for creating intimacy, because you can imagine in the middle of the night, it can be a little bit scary. There was a story when they put this building. Of course, they invited several influencers to be inside so that, they would advertise the glass a little bit. And there were two girls, maybe 2 weeks after they put the building there, staying there and putting their photos on Instagram immediately. And then they said in the middle of the night, they just saw lights coming from the car to the house. And they were completely scared. Who is that? And at the end, it was a local police guy who saw the photos and he just wanted to basically say hi to cute girls, just to check them out if they're okay, like 2 a.m. So yeah, so that's why we have the curtains, just to feel a little bit safe. So the research, why we do the research, because of course we also use that in other projects. Like, for example, this glass house helped us a lot in some projects. Like, for example, this is a quite crazy project for, say, Saudi Arabia. Probably, I don't think it's gonna be built. It's part of this project that they are kind of building now. And in a way, we implemented a lot of things. Took the same team also here. So we also teach. We were teaching 7 years at Harvard, and we were teaching in UCLA and Hong Kong and Milano. We teach as visiting professors. And also when we teach the students, we always try to, wherever we go, so with Harvard, we traveled a lot. We had this kind of 3 months and a half semesters visiting several countries, sometimes in Asia. We brought them to Slovenia. So, for example, this was Manila. Before I showed, this was Kuala Lumpur. Then we worked in basically in different countries. Like, for example, this was with AA. It was like each student chose a site from his own country. This was UCLA, and we of course worked in LA. And this was Milano and Hong Kong University. So basically, we tried to teach students, and they are really from everywhere, that in a way, what will make them special is that they should look back from where they come from and take some inspiration and some knowledge and something from where they are, where they come from, because this is something that is special and is always going to make them different from anything else. So these are for example, the juries at Harvard. And one of the studios was also working with this kind of small scale buildings in Slovenia. We were lucky to get a site where at that time we were working on a research in the office how to actually do shelters in the mountains. So this was the project we did just before this studio. It was a winter cabin. It's called bivak. I don't know if they have them in France. Bivak is a small kind of shelter that normally is taken care by local alpinists and bivak. Okay, no, okay. So basically, we have them in Slovenia. It's an old tradition. The oldest one is 120 years old, and it's on the mountain Triglav, the highest mountain in Slovenia. And then these ones. So basically, we did this one before, and it was a great project for us because you learn a lot. for example, this one we tried to bring on top of the mountain as a one hut, and it was quite impossible. 3 times three times the helicopter had to came. We were collaborating with the army, who gave free flights as a part of their training, because the turbulence was so strong in front of between the mountains. When the helicopter comes with the load so heavy that it really moves like that, like really you cannot imagine how the turbulence is between the pockets of the mountains. So first attempt we tried, it was moving so much that people who were standing here to hold it, they would be just swept away. So basically the pilot said, no, we go back down. You have to do this load a little bit less strong. So how do we do this? Because the shell is structural, we cannot cut it in half. So we made kind of windows inside and so on. So the third attempt actually it worked, that the building came up. And so basically it's a wooden shelf with the metal kind of cladding, and the 3 beds, 2 people can sleep on each bed, and with this large window overlooking the Adriatic Sea, actually you can see from this mountain, you can see down to Venice. It's a beautiful view. So this knowledge we try to basically teach the students also, because it's a great way to learn how the structure works, how you have to create minimal space, how the sustainability works, and so on. So it's a lot of things you can learn. And we got this site on another mountain in Slovenia, Skuta, and together with students we created this building. Now it was made of 3 elements, so we were never ever again doing one, but 3 of them, which actually you can place and bring one by one to the mountain. And basically 1, 2, 3. So living, sleeping. So basically you can actually hear even 12 people sleep sometimes, because now in a way it's a problem, because the building is nice and it's visited highly because it's nice. So maybe sometimes they are angry that we should not do beautiful buildings in the mountains, because they attract people who maybe they should not go there. They are not capable enough to climb. But basically, the way, for example, you do the foundation, it's interesting. You have to pour water inside the rock, and then when you see the water doesn't stay there already, that means the rock is hard enough, and then you can drill inside, because here you don't do foundation of concrete. Again, it's like you don't touch the nature, but you drill the anchors inside. And the anchors are there when the building comes, when the helicopter brings the building that is already finished, the anchors are there, and then the building is placed on those anchors that perfectly have to be regulated already before that, you know that the building is going to be straight. So here again, we were working with army. Our army in Slovenia has only 2 helicopters strong enough to bring something heavy on the mountain. So basically the load is 1,400 kilos, which is not a lot. And the higher you go, the more is the pressure and the less load it can bring. So basically each module had to be only 1,400 kilos. We had to calculate really carefully, because of course the building needs to be strong, and for the winds, and if you want it to be strong, it has to be done by massive materials. So they were bringing each of these modules one by one, and you can see the shape of the roof. It's like that. So when the helicopter goes out, the pressure goes like that, and it makes it easier. So this building was 3 hours, and it was on the site assembled. So it was actually a good success. And now the building, I think, is already, 7 years old, and it's actually still in a perfect condition. And hopefully it's gonna stay like that, because the building we replaced was 50 years old, so we should not be worse than the people before. So this is my last video. I will just leave it to the end. You can see how it's moving, but for example, if you saw the other one was really moving like that. This one was just rotating. So when it comes to the rocks, there were 4 guys who have to hold the stripes and push the building down exactly on the anchors that are ready there. So if we talk about Europe and what is special about, I would say also projects like that, because it's a communal work, it's all volunteer work. All the people here, including us, were volunteer. We brought the materials, we got materials from different producers, all for free. And also people who take care of the building are volunteers. So it's really for the public good. And this is something that I would say is special about all of us. And this is something we should appreciate and keep. The glass is super strong. It was done by the same company, Guardian. We use them as a volunteering company, donators, and it is calculated for the wind loads so that it cannot break. It's actually reinforced on these areas here. Okay. So that is it from my side. So maybe you have some questions?
Thank you so much, Špela, for this very inspiring lecture and for sharing all these projects. Before passing the mic to maybe some questions in the audience, I was just wondering something about, well, you've shown projects from like large scales to very micro architectures, from very small design to large housing projects. You've shown projects in Spain, in France, in Slovenia, even in Saudi Arabia. And your lecture was entitled Inspiring Limitations, and it seems that you have like no limits in terms of programs, in terms of what you do, even building for humans and building for animals with this amazing a fountain, like a champagne for cows that I found amazing. And so I was wondering, what do you mean by limitations and how do you see it in your work? And if you have limits, where are they and which are the limitations? And I think this project brought by helicopter is another limit you're crossing, because you're making architecture like fly in the sky. So this is just my first very simple question.
Yeah, thank you for a nice question. Yeah, basically, as I was trying to explain, it's very hard. I mean, I would say that it's hard for an architect to do a project on complete tabula rasa, meaning that there is no restrictions, no site specificity. Like, I don't know, you have this, I don't know, plane, and you do whatever you want. You know, how would you approach, right? It's a very hard task. And then it's a very hard task if you do several projects like that, because how you do it that you don't repeat yourself, or you don't copy from, I don't know, Instagram or Pinterest or whatever. So basically for us, the limitations are inspiring. What we try to say is that you have the site, you have specifics of the site that sometimes you hate, because you hate the urban regulations, why you cannot do building higher, why you cannot do, I don't know, that and that, which you have heritage, you have city, you have some regulations that are kind of blocking you to be completely free as a designer. But on the other hand, these limitations can be creative and can inspire you. And then really on every side, because of the urban planning kind of permissions, because of the program, because of the client, because of the context of the site, because of many things that are completely specific for this area, you can do a building that only belongs there. And then another building you do somewhere else is then completely different. And it cannot be copied or should not be copied to China or to anywhere else, because in a way it should be there because it belongs there. So that's what we were trying to say. And this is also what I would say when I was thinking about your program, identity, European identity, like what is the building, what is the architecture that has its own identity. I think this is, for us, this is it. So this is what creates identity at the end.
Are there any questions? Yes. En français ou en anglais, tout est possible.
So first of all, thank you very much for this really thrilling presentation. All of your buildings have strong and beautiful designs. So I was curious to know what are your own personal tastes in art and architecture, and how you can reconcile and balance your own taste with the tastes of your clients. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I would say that being an architect, sometimes you are like a kind of diplomatic lawyer. Not only, we have in the office, first of all, we are two people who started as young students, Rok and myself, Rokoman, myself. And we have a team now. Some of our colleagues are together with us for a very long time. So basically we have team that stay together for a long time. So in a way, all is created by our team in a way. It's not just one person saying the taste, but it's a kind of team project. Architecture is definitely a team project. So yes, what we do, we have a vision, and then of course, often you have clients, especially if it's about, I don't know, let's say multiple housing, where it's housing that needs to be placed on the market. Then some clients expect that maybe you will follow their rule, what they think is proper, what they think the market is looking for, and so on and so on. And yeah, a role as an architect is that in a way through maybe small tricks, when you say, okay, look, this is more functional, this will bring more square meters, this will create more light or more whatever, but it has to be true, right? It's not just so. If you study carefully and you do a building that in a way has logic coming from different aspects, like, I don't know, let's say housing, daylight, views, sun in winter, not sun in summer, like creating community, having intimate spaces and open spaces and so on. If you do it properly, if you design it, then design also is beautiful. It cannot be ugly because it's kind of proper, and then also you can sell that to the client. Like then you cannot, then no one can beat you with kind of other arguments, because all your arguments are in a way correct. So I would say like that. But yes, often we say, oh my God, we really need to be like a diplomatic lawyer, where you find, for example, you have restriction in urban restrictions, right? You have to follow the rules. I don't know, you work in the village and they say, okay, roof needs to be 45 degrees. This needs to be like that needs to be like that. And they say, oh my God, so where is creativity? Like, what can I do here now? Everything is completely restricted. And then you have to find, okay, but maybe if you do like that, you are still following the rules. So that's, you will see in your practice later, that's actually also something that if you want to do your vision, to do what you are proper at, you also have to, we'd say, be creative in following the rules and the demands of the client. Yeah.
Well, it links to another question I had concerning Slovenian architects. Now you've been famous in all over the world for quite some time now. Your projects have been largely published in international magazines online for a long time, and you're teaching in the US. This is what we saw tonight. But what about like Slovenian architecture and maybe contemporary architecture? And I think we don't know that well, like from France, I think, some young firms. And so I was wondering if you could share a few interesting firms you know that maybe we might not know yet from here. And that would be interesting to look
Yeah,
over.
I mean, what I would say is when I was at the beginning of the lecture, when I was explaining that our country is young and fresh, for example, this was for us, for my generation, for our office, and for few offices that are very good in Slovenia. I can share the names with you. A very good moment because we basically, let's say, the generation of like the maybe 5 or 6 firms that are our generation and also have a portfolio similar. We are friends, we are competitors. We all at that time were able to go and study abroad. We all were able to find a stipendium somehow because you can imagine Slovenia at that time was quite a poor country. It was not easy to go and study in London. No parents had no money to send us anywhere. So basically at that time we were considered as a kind of country that were I don't know, we could got a stipendium as a kind of country with low income, right? So that was good. So basically for my generation it was good that a lot of people make advantage of that and were able to go to study at least for 1 or 2 years, do the masters maybe somewhere. So at that time it was Berlage Institute in Netherlands and the AA, and some went to Harvard and so on, at least for 2 years. And then we all came back because at that time, as I explained, the country was young. There was a lot of construction going on, and there was no established firms because the firms before in socialismus were big firms, and they all got the kind of, dismissed in this change of transition. And everyone had to do their own firm. And in a way, we were young and very ambitious. And it was, in a way, easier for us to do the firm that for old architects who, for 20 years, all the contracts, all the income, everything was, in a way, taken care by a big firm. So in a way, at that time, it was a very good moment for us to start. For us, no one asked what we built before. When you enter the competition, you could just enter without portfolio of anything. You could just enter. So Rok and myself, in the last year of studies, at that time, it was very lucky, but we won a football stadium competition, a housing and a museum, city museum. Everything was built about 10 years later because, money in the country, there was no money at that time. But yet it in a way we could do the office just when we made the diploma from the school, and that was kind of specific for my generation. It's a little bit harder now, I would say, for young architects. It's a little bit harder because now we are already established, but still I would say maybe the influence of Italian nice design and the Austrian German pragmatism makes us pragmatic, and we love the beauty, and that's what architecture is about. So if you don't know Slovenian architecture, you should come. It's not far away. So come for a trip.
What about young firms or young architects now? Do they still study abroad, or is there an easier way to study in Slovenia and then stay there? How do you see the evolution of younger generation?
As I say, I would say that it is harder for them than it was for us, just because of that specific situation that I explained before. But still, there are companies like, maybe, for example, if I look at the students I had in Harvard, it's extremely hard there. in the States, most of the students, they actually have very big loans, and when they finish the school, they actually have to get a job to give money back. It's a really very sad situation, and we should appreciate that in Europe that school normally is either free or still low cost in comparison to what is going on there. And yeah, in Slovenia, the school is still free completely. And the country somehow supports young people. Like it's not like in the States, if you get sick and you are young and you just can, be on the street. It doesn't happen in Slovenia. No one is on the street unless he wants to be on the street. So that's a part of a system that we used to have, still has that, let's say, socialistic agenda, which I hope is not going to disappear. Yeah.
Are there other questions? Est-ce que quelqu'un a une question en français, même en français ou en anglais? Oui.
Thank you for this really exciting presentation. I was wondering, well, you said you teach in different countries, and you were speaking about AA, but I think there are much other ones. Do you see, as a teacher of the project, different cultures of the project, of the way of making the project and teaching it? Or do you think, for instance, in Europe, it's quite homogeneous, quite the same everywhere?
How you think how it's different? For example, if I look at the students and the study in, like what I would say, of course, Harvard is a place where cream de la cream comes. I mean, I wouldn't say they are really such good students, but for sure, most of them are extremely ambitious, really hardworking. And what I was surprised when I came there, almost none of my students was really coming from, let's say, rich family where someone paid their studies. Almost everyone had to work or get loan from something. So that was for me. And then looking at these students by the end of the studies, like in the last semester, being completely freaked out and nervous about if they will get the job or they will not get the job. This was such a really hard, this was for me the most painful, right, moment. But what I liked a lot is working with them is that in a way, people there think that it's their mission to change the world. But seriously, like every student there has this ambition in completely large, in a way, naive way, that what they will do in their life will make a large influence worldwide. So in a way, for example, when we came to Manila and then we had this congress and we were talking about how to solve what is impossible to solve, like there, like so many people living on the street or in the garbage areas. I mean, it's a completely heartbreaking city, the diversity between rich and poor, it's unbelievable. But in a way, looking at the students and their vision and what they tried to do in those 3.5 months semester, for me, that was a big change comparison to, for example, I don't know, Slovenia, Milano, that I don't know how people in the States have this big agenda of, and that's something what I really admired in some way, right? That they have this kind of large thinking, right? Not like narrow. So that's the difference. And of course, hard work. On the other hand, there are like completely positive things that I would say we have in Europe. And when I was there, I was always comparing and saying students how great it's here and what actually should be changed there. And hopefully this will not get lost. Like, for example, the free or almost free education and kind of you can completely sense there that something's gone really completely wrong, and it's getting worse now with the politics in the States. Now, for example, I don't teach anymore. None of my colleagues teaches anymore because it's impossible. Basically, at the moment, there the situation is really, really hard and bad, and I don't know how it's going to evolve. So, yeah, that I would say is a big change.
Is there a last question before?
Please.
Good evening. Thank you for your words. I wanted to ask you if, since you started working as an architect, if your practice and the values that you incorporate into your projects, if or how they have evolved throughout time.
How they changed, or
yes.
How they changed,
Yes,
like
how they changed
from the
if they have
beginning to
changed.
now.
Yes, that could be.
It's a hard question. I don't know actually. I would say, of course, through years, this identity looking for things that will make you different from something else and coming back to that roots, for sure that comes with years of practice. And for sure it comes also, if you travel around and you go to States and you see all these, I don't know, people, students there from China, from I don't know where, and then you really say, oh, where is my position in the world, where I come from? And then you ask yourself who you are, who you come from. That for sure came in years, and it's stronger and stronger. So I would say whatever, basically the team you are discussing in your studio right now, it's for sure the team that we find several years after starting our practice. And then, of course, you are more experienced also talking to the clients or solving details and things like that. And then, of course, you look at the buildings different, but still I would say, every project we start, we feel young and we feel like a student starting a new project, and we really try to seek a completely different project from what we did before, right? We sometimes now we can already say, okay, no to some projects that we don't like the client, or we don't think it's going to involve nice, or it's the same, or we feel it's going to be the same project as some projects that we already did, because every project, it's 4 or 5 years of your life, right? And now in my age, of course, you say, okay, is it worthwhile 5 years working with these people on this project? Or shall I just forget about it and try to wait for something else to appear? So we become picky a little bit, and we look more and more to what actually is basically will make us different from something else. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Špela Videčnik. And I think there is the evening goes on with a drink in your honor, organized in another building, and so everyone is invited, of course. La soirée se poursuit avec un petit apéritif.